They have this narrative going around that they say toxic men and toxic women, people who are crazy, a little bit off, that they have the best sex, right? And one thing that I've realized about this is premature integration plays a big part in this, right? It plays a big part in that whole concept and that whole narrative. Like, it plays a big part because when you're thinking about, put my kufi on. When you think about masculine feminine dynamics, what premature integration does is it causes you to be unable to not be repressing your sexuality in the natural form of it, in a way to where you get into relationships on an emotional foundation, and you get into relationships on a foundation of friendship. You get in a relationship on a foundation of things that that counteract your masculine and feminine dynamic. So it'll work like this. Let's say you're a man. You got a Madonna whore complex. When you're dealing with a woman who you really like as a person, you're not going to step fully into your full sexuality, right? You're not going to get as nasty as you could. You're not going to get as aggressive as you could, because your focus is on respecting that woman, right? That's what your focus is on. You want to be respectful. You want to care about all her boundaries. You want to make sure that you're being doting and supportive and friendly. You want to be friendly. You want to be harmless. That's what you want to be, because you want her to feel safe around you, right? That's what happens when you're prematurely integrated. You know, you use feminine energy and femininity as a man to try to make women comfortable with you, which actually has the opposite effect a lot of the times. So let's say you go from there. On the woman's side, it works like this. She's prematurely integrated. Chances are what she's doing is she's probably going to be trading sex for love, right? Which means that it's sex work. She's trading it, right? It's a trade. It's transactional. And it may be for resources instead of just for love. But what happens in these particular type of situations is that she's not going to be able to fully get into her sexuality on a primal level, because access to herself sexually and controlling that is what makes that man feel comfortable to be with her. Is repressing her sexuality. Also, it's what keeps him working hard to keep her, because he wants to keep access to her sexually. So he's going to be putting in work. He's going to be trying to take her out. He's going to be trying to do things to get and keep her sexually. But she's not really dealing with him on a foundation of her sexual desire for him. That's not how she's looking at the situation. She's looking at it as, this is a good man. And that's how premature integration works. And so what happens in these type of scenarios? For the man, his masculine sexual energy, his dominance is being repressed, right? It's going to be repressed with that woman probably until he encounters a woman who does not have those boundaries set up, who's not prematurely integrated in that way, right? So chances are he's going to come across a woman. She may be crazy. She doesn't have mental boundaries, mental faculties, right? So she's very feminine. There's different aspects of her that aren't feminine, but there are certain aspects of her that are feminine in a way that would lead to her being sexually available and letting go of her inhibitions and wanting to get as wild and crazy as he wants to get. In this situation, the man is getting to experience a side of himself he doesn't get to experience, right? That's to let that hurt go dick, right? And he gets to take all his pent-up frustration from having to repress his sexuality, and now he's dealing with a woman who he doesn't necessarily have to see her as relationship material long-term. He's just dealing with a woman who he knows she probably a little off. He knows she probably a little crazy. Now, some dudes get caught up in relationships with these type of women, but a lot of times it's a woman where you just know you don't want to be with her. So you're comfortable seeing her in that whore light, you know, the Madonna whore complex. That's a crazy woman. Some dudes end up dating those women too. Now that's crazy for you. You know she off. See, my thing is this. If you can't do it with a woman who is relationship material to you, if you can't do it with a woman who has good mental health, if you can't do it with a woman who you're emotionally attached to and attracted to, and that you see as a relationship material type of woman, all that shit you're doing with those crazy women, them toxic women, that shit don't even really count. Because it's not going to affect your life for the long term. It might give you a little bit of confidence for the time being, and if you can segue that into integrating that dominant sexual side into how you deal with relationships, then it's something that can help you, right? But if you aren't going to be able to handle or to bring out that sexual side of a woman who you would deem as relationship material, then all you're doing is getting overstimulated to where you have sexual expectations based on, you know, openly transactional situations, sage burners, no limit soldiers, women who don't have to attach their emotions for you or their desire to follow you in a relationship or their desire to be with you. They don't have to deal with the juxtaposition of that and her sexual desire for you. So she's in a position where she can kind of just focus on one thing, right? She can just focus on one thing, and you get to focus on one thing. And if you already don't respect that woman, then you're going to give her some disrespectful dick, and that's what your girl wants, right? So she just may not want it from you because of how you presented yourself. Because you may feel like you're trying to bait and switch her. Now, let's say it's the same thing on the woman's side, right? She's dealing with a guy. She determines him to be a good man or a good man for a relationship based off of his ability to be respectful of her boundaries, to put her on a pedestal, to want to take her on multiple dates, to want to make her feel as comfortable as possible without trying to have sex with her. That's what she considers a man who is respectful. That's a gentleman, right? Now, when your standards for a relationship, they disregard or they devalue the importance of sex, and they devalue the importance of a man who's masculine, then you're going to be pretty much creating a transactional sex relationship where your intrinsic level of desire is not going to be high enough to keep up with his sex drive completely. So you got to put him in a position where he doesn't expect it, because your natural desire is not enough to want to do it if he doesn't expect it. And then also, you don't want him to get too comfortable thinking he can get it too often or whenever he wants, because if he's in that position, that's too much, right? Because your desire level is not high enough for that. You know, if he gets used to that for a little period of time, then he's going to start expecting that's how it's going to be always. And your desire level ain't there for it to be one of the situations where it's like how it's going to be always, right? And you know that. When you're in that type of situation, sometimes you're putting that man into a box that is not actually fully what he is, right? So to hold back sexually, you have to admit that there's more levels that he would go to, right? If you understand there's more levels he can go to, then you got to understand that that man right there could go fuck the shit out of somebody else. Good, right? But it's a matter of, are you going to feel safe? And are you going to feel that lust and desire? And are you going to not fight it and repress it? You know what I mean? Are you going to not view what you allow sexually as whether or not that man's respecting you? If that man is, especially if that man is with you, if he's dealing with you, spending time with you, especially if you're already in a relationship, why are you worried about respect now? It's kind of weird. Like when it comes to sexuality and what you like and what you allow, why are you worried about that now? If there's things that you would be open to if you were single, or there's things you would be open to with a fuck buddy, or there's things that you would be open to if just you met some masculine dominant dude who turned you on, why are those things an issue with the man that you're with now? So you open him up for let that hurt go dick, you open yourself up for let that hurt go pussy. Right? And that's when you recognize that, okay, cool, what you're attracted to is the fact that he respects your boundaries and respects you, right? But that toxic dick, that's a dick that don't respect you. That's a dick that's going to dominate you. And that's a dick that's going to fuck you pretty much into sexual submissiveness. You may not be fully submissive all around. Sometimes it's going to go out there too. Sometimes it's not just going to stop at sex. Because he's taking you through an experience you never had before and showing you what was good. That's what makes you kind of want to follow a man, is when you kind of see your expectation being set and you see your experiences letting you know that when you go places you didn't expect to go, that you would enjoy yourself. So now he's pushing boundaries. He's not sitting there giving a fuck about what you think. He's like, nah, this is what I want to do. It feels right. He goes off of his instincts, and your desire level makes the fact that he doesn't give a fuck turn you on. See, when you have this type of complex, what tends to happen is that emotionally, you're going to view that man after the fact, not during the fact, but after the fact. If your mindset doesn't shift over to being feminine and submissive all around, then after a while, that mindset of him pushing those boundaries and not giving a fuck and just being masculine and dominant in that way that does turn you on, it does make you feel sexually attracted to him. It's something that you'll look at your life and your stances and your beliefs and your social programming, and then you'll say, you know what, he's toxic, right? You might say he's abusive. You might say he's whatever, even though you loved everything he did in the moment. But when you sat back and thought about it after the fact, you felt like it was disrespectful. You felt like he was a man who wouldn't care for you or take care of you, right? Now, part of the reason why the toxic seems like it's what gives you the most level of desire, the most level of pleasure, the best dick, is because of that wild primal aggression, because of not being socially conditioned and socially programmed to a certain extent. What you got to think about is this. Toxicity ranges from moral to amoral to immoral. Just different stages, different levels of toxicity. The current level of social programming takes a certain level of what is actually feminine or what is actually masculine, and then it puts it into toxic categories. Because the goal is to get rid of that masculine-feminine dynamic between men and women. That's the goal. And part of it is for financial reasons. Right? It's for the social programming and controlling society. Like, I personally believe it works kind of like this. America and Western society is run off consumerism. You know, that's why they spend so much money on TV. That's why they spend so much money on media. That's why they spend so much money on, commercials, advertisement. The thing is this, a lot of those things need to be impulse bought, and they need to be emotionally bought. if you research a lot of this stuff, you're not going to want to get it. Or if you're logical thinking about your thought process of wanting to get those things, you're not going to want them a good bit of the time. And letting that be the case, it makes you understand that they need to make sure that women are emotionalized, right? And that men will do, or are simps, and beta males, and will do whatever it takes to please women in order to make sure that those things are still being bought. And if a man is masculine dominant and he's in control of his own sex life, then he's not going to be frivolous with his money in hopes of getting some sex. He's not. So the goal is to keep women socially programmed, and then to keep men submissive to women when it comes to the rules that are set for sex. And what they're realizing is that it goes beyond just men who are actually aggressively dominantly masculine in a fucked up way. It goes beyond that. You know what I mean? It goes beyond that. So it used to be more so a matter of, like, let's say the topic may be rape, or the topic may be abuse. The thing to understand about that is that, like, physically assaulting a woman in some capacity, or trying to overpower her with your physical strength, you know, those are things that's not good. But what tends to happen throughout society is that that standard is getting higher or lower and lower, right? When it comes to what's seen under that same umbrella, right? The things that's seen under the same umbrella is getting lower and lower. That's why I think that prostitution should be legal. I don't even want to pay for pussy. My mindset about prostitution, why it should be legal, is so that people have more honest conversations about the nature of sexual relationships between men and women. Most women do treat sexuality transactionally to a certain extent when it comes to relationships. Not with all men, because if it was that way, I wouldn't be getting none. But with most men, that's how it works. So you got to think about that. So the standard's getting lower or higher and higher, or whatever it is continuing to expand, right? On the idea of abuse, and the idea of, like, physical abuse is being expanded to mental and emotional abuse, and mental and emotional abuse and manipulation are being expanded into things that, for both men and women, are positive aspects of manipulation. Listen, no matter what you want in life, certain things are going to be a matter of influence. Communication doesn't help everything, right? And what I mean by communication doesn't help everything. If your style of communication is just to say, this bothers me, I'm unhappy with this, another person can be like, well, I don't feel that way. Or another person may be like, well, I really want to, but I just don't feel that way. People are going to choose what they want to do based off of how they feel. It makes more sense to me that if you're going to want somebody to do something, that if you know how, you put them into a mind state to where they will be more inclined to do it. I'm not talking about getting nobody drunk. I'm talking about basically just having game. Knowing how to present what it is that you desire in a way that causes the other person to desire it. Now, that's seduction. But nowadays, that aspect of seduction is being conflated with coercion, right? Which is under the umbrella of rape. And there's certain things that go on with it. Another thing is transactionally. A big aspect of sexuality between men and women these days is somewhat transactional. What they're doing is making it so that a woman can engage in the flattery of the idea of that, and then manipulate men who deserve to get manipulated because they don't know better, but they should know better, but manipulate them into thinking, well, she says that she'll be in a relationship if I take her on so many dates, or we'll have sex if we're in a relationship, or we'll have sex after she gets to know me better, and all this different stuff. A lot of times that isn't true. A lot of times they fucking somebody else the whole time they talking about that. Right? So sometimes certain things be transactional in nature, and then they get to call that in feeling entitled. So if somebody tells you what they'll do if you do something, and then you do something, you do what they said that you have to do, and then you don't get what they said they was going to give you, that's not being entitled. That's really feeling defrauded. Now, that's why I think as a man, you set your own standard about what you want going in. You know what you want. You make sure you cause her to desire what it is that you want. That way you avoid the whole transactional type of situation, or a woman taking the lead in a relationship. And then you're trying to figure out how you're going to get the lead back from her afterwards. Sometimes the shit just ain't going to work. You get what I'm saying? But that's like, that kind of goes in line with like sage burners. Because I'm going to get back to the topic. The overall topic is basically why people think that toxic people have the best sex. One aspect of it is because certain levels of sensuality and seduction and just aggressiveness and things that are desirable and primal A lot of those things are put into the box of toxic, right? Another aspect of it is just the emotional roller coaster does intensify sexuality, right? When the basis of everything is on communication and respect and boundaries, then oftentimes it's only going to be on a comfort level, and it's not going to have that same excitement or spontaneity that really turns it up, revs it up to the next level. And when you have a bunch of boundaries that put you into a position to where someone can't both respect those boundaries and get your full sexuality out of you, then when you encounter a man who's not going to respect that, that's where you're going to really get turned out, right? That's how that shit works. And how it works with a man is when you're prematurely integrated, oftentimes you don't respect a woman enough, right? Or you respect a woman too much to fully get aggressive with her sexually. And because of that, you do that if you think she's relationship material. If she's not relationship material, if she's crazy, or she's a sage burner, or you're opened up to some new experiences because you had some bad experiences, and then you start dealing with a woman who's one of them sage burning type of women or no limit soldier, then either you're going to have to let that hurt go dick, or she's just going to be on some stuff to where she's open to whatever you want to do, but it's not because of you. It's because that's just how she is. Sometimes it's a matter of how you approach the situation because you don't see it as long term. But in those situations where you get to really let your hair down sexually and really go in, and it's not really about the other person sometimes as much as it's about you, because the person that you were with, they have the capacity to be that sexual for somebody else. And you got to think about the fact that you weren't that sexual with the person who you was with before you encountered that. Maybe they didn't quote unquote allow it, but and that shouldn't really be a topic of understanding, but that's how it be sometimes. Maybe they didn't allow it, maybe you didn't feel comfortable with it, maybe you respected them too much, quote unquote. You got a Madonna whore complex. So when you go into the next thing, you're like, well, shit, this is a different situation, it's a new situation, and then you become a new man. The goal here is sexual integration. The goal here is that you got to find somebody who has actual good mental health, who loves themselves. You got to find somebody who is able to make themselves happy, right? You got to find somebody who got, who you can see some type of future with. Somebody who compliments you, right? Who compliments you and the things that you're into and into the things that you would need help with. Somebody who's a helpmate. You got to find those type of things. A woman, you got to find a man who you respect and desire and trust enough for you to allow him to lead you, right? Or a man who's just going to take the lead, but not mix up your social programming with that program that he's bringing to you, unless it's an extreme situation, because you will be trying to judge that man, that situation, off of your standard for men who aren't men. You'll be trying to judge the standard you have for this new man off of the things that you allow him to do, the things that you accept that you're not used to accepting. You may start to judge those things on the standard of your social programming. This ain't the same type of situation, baby. It ain't the same thing. This is a different type of nigga. And that don't mean he's gonna mistreat you. That's not what it means. But based off of what your social programming thinks is being mistreated, you're gonna be mistreated. Now, that's just some real shit. It's not gonna be on that extra nice guy shit, always trying to make sure you feel extra comfortable with everything and trying to make sure that you trying to make sure you agree with everything. You're not really gonna be asking your opinion that much. You're gonna ask, but it's gonna be a different time. He knows what he wants. That's the kind of man you want. That's just something that comes with it, right? But if, depending on what man it is, when you place up sexual boundaries and boundaries of your submissiveness, if you see somebody with relationship material, then you put yourself in a position where only somebody who's duplicitous and lying to you is going to be able to really satisfy you on that level. So only a toxic person is going to make it through, because they're going to pretend to be feminine to get their way in and then switch up on you and be on some toxic shit when they get in, right? You got to understand that. But if you're able to be receptive to masculine and dominant energy from day one, then if you two are compatible, it's going to work out. Just don't put your foot in your mouth and you fuck it up. You get what I'm saying? And guys, you got to stop. You got to stop treating a woman who you think is relationship material and acquiescing and doing things her way, and being so afraid of being sexually dominant, being so afraid of being sexually aggressive. You just got to start that way. Like, it's hard to be that way when you've already experienced a woman's desire level for you, being that there's going to be sometimes when she's on, sometimes she's not. It's going to be difficult where if you're dealing with a woman to where she has sexual boundaries, to where, you start feeling like you need to ask for consent all the time, instead of being in a situation where there's more so blanket consent that kind of covers whenever you're in each other's vicinity, either one of you can just go for it. If you don't have that type of experience with a woman already, then you are going to feel uncomfortable and unsafe being masculine and dominant and sexually aggressive, because some things that go under umbrella of a woman loving it, because that shit just turns her on because it's aggressive, it's masculine, it's dominant, or some of the same things that under today's understanding of consent, those things would be seen as rape by some people. So I can see how it can make you feel uncomfortable or unsafe when you're in a prematurely integrated situation. Go ahead and turn it up. That's why I say you find a good starting point so that you have room to go up sexually. You know, I say don't give a woman an A-game dick on the first try, but what I do say is this: you find your woman, you know, she attracted to you, you like how she carries herself, and you present yourself sexually first and foremost. You have your conversation with her, but you make sure before the first conversation over that I'm trying to fuck. Call her sexy. So like, hey, you sexy to me. You make this shit clear. You say, listen, I'm trying to fuck with you. You know what I mean? Like, what's up? Like, when you're free, I want to see what's up with that. And if she goes for it, she don't. But I'll tell you this, when you start a situation with that type of energy, biology first approach, you put the masculine feminine dynamic and the sexual desire first, then oftentimes a woman will be very opened up to you and very receptive to you sexually. And if you know how to lead from that point, and you know how to steer and guide the direction of that situation, if it turns out that that woman is relationship material for you, like if it turns out that way, then you're in a position where if you know how to lead it, then you can integrate the non-sexual aspects of the relationship into later if there's something that she desires and it's something that you desire and it's something that makes sense. You vetted the woman, she's checked out. Then you're like, all right, cool. She's in there. All right, we start progressing things up. So you spend some time with her non-sexually. Then you build a relationship out of that. Right? Instead of on a foundation of friendship. After she's on your program to where she starts switching her social programming for your program, then you can talk to her in the language that, well, you're already talking to her in that language, but then when she begins to understand your language, she begins to understand and agree with your values and your foundational beliefs about how things should be, then she's in a position where she's adopted a certain level of your mindset to where you can just talk to her about the shit. And as you talk to her about the shit, it'll make sense. Then she gets to have a little bit more of an opinion. You spend a little bit more time to her, you talk to her some more, you give her assignments to make sure she's being a helpmate, you give her assignments to keep track of her devotion to you. Then you find different ways to reciprocate. And then you get into a relationship. But if you in a relationship, now you already have that foundation to where you can have some of the best sex with somebody who you actually care about, right? That's something that's important to understand. And for a woman, it's the same situation on the other side. If, you know, stop dealing with a man who you're not sexually attracted to. Stop dealing with a man who, if you know that you would ever be open to casual sex, don't date a man who you wouldn't be receptive if he approached you that way, right? So all you're doing is setting yourself up for a man to be in a situation with you, and he's not even gonna feel desired. You're setting yourself up to get cheated on, honestly, and you're setting yourself up to cheat. A lot of people don't get that part. You're setting yourself up. So from there, you got to be comfortable with the liminal spaces. You have to make sure your desire and your respect level for that man is high enough to where if people come to you saying that your situation ain't right, that you can, you know, say, no, I'm happy, I'm being treated well, I'm getting fucked real good, I'm just really into his energy, I just really like him. And then you don't care what other people think, start adopting this program, see, then you're in a different type of position, right? But if you get caught up in a situation to where your feminine energy that's inside of you, your sexual energy just loves that aspect of that man, but then when you get back into your social programming and your people pleasing and your mindset of what's socially correct, being politically correct, that those things contradict, then you're going to be in a constant battle within yourself. And then when you're in a constant battle within yourself, you're going to behave in ways that are going to make the things that you think are bad about being a dominant masculine man a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're going to make those things a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, what are you afraid? That he's going to hurt you in some time? You're afraid he's going to leave you? That's a way to get left. You're afraid he's going to play you? That's a way to get played. What, you think he's going to cheat on you? Yeah, that's a way to get cheated on. Like, some people never will, some people always will, but most people are in between. You know, you think he's going to disrespect you and get aggressive with you? If you're being disrespectful with him, always trying to shit test him and stuff, then either he's going to leave you alone or he's going to check the fuck out of you, and it's going to hurt your feelings. And if you can't take that as correction, instead of getting defensive and wanting to defend yourself, then shit is either going to escalate or it's going to de-escalate real quick. It's going to be one of the two. And if you decide you want to defend yourself and then you keep escalating the situation up, some men just going to walk away. And some men just going to hang up. Some men, they going to keep escalating until one of y'all backs down. And if you don't back down, you're going to end up getting in the black eye. Right? But you got to know how to back down. So it's certain things that go along with this that they counteract some people's social programming, but this is the reason why they say crazy and toxic people have the best sex. and how that cannot be your situation or your experience.